Storytime. This happened a year ago yesterday. Coming off my previous travel adventure, I spent about 3 weeks in Tokyo, and most of it was spent running around dealing with visas. I needed several visas for my upcoming trip, and each one took multiple days to process. The story of how I managed to get 3 visas that I needed and failed to get 1 more is probably best left for another time when I'm talking about how I go about planning my travels. Plenty of other things happened as well, but the story I want to tell today is about how I nearly missed the first leg of my journey. I was catching a ferry on the morning of August 14th from Osaka, and I was in Tokyo. I had a ticket for an overnight bus that would get me there in time to get from the bus terminal to the ferry terminal. The bus left from Shinjuku quite late at night, and I was out with some friends at a bar for a last hurrah before I left. I had all my bags with me at the bar and I was ready to go. So when the time came, I said my goodbyes and I headed out to the bus stop, not far from the bar. I'd taken the bus from Shinjuku before, when I'd gone from Tokyo to climb Mount Fuji. So I knew where to go. Or so I thought. I showed up at the bus terminal, and everything was dark. There were no buses, there were no people, which is a feat in and of itself in Shinjuku. It slowly dawned on me that I was in the wrong spot. Then began a bit of frantic search for a place with Wi-Fi. Tokyo's getting a lot better in terms of Wi-Fi, but in many places it's still an internet desert. By the time I was able to get online and double-check my ticket and where I was supposed to be, there was no way I was going to make it in time to catch my bus. Kicking myself, I did the only reasonable thing there was to do. Drink! I went back to my friends at the bar and mourned the waste of a bus ticket over a pint, while I hatched a new plan, which didn't take very long. The new plan. First thing in the morning, head to Shinagawa Station, one of the main long-distance train stations in Tokyo, and get a ticket for the first Shinkansen, a bullet train, to Osaka in the morning. I still had 4 or 5 hours to kill before I could get to Shinagawa on the first commuter trains within Tokyo. So I did the only reasonable thing there was to do: more pints. And eventually late night karaoke with my friends and some other random people who were also planning on being out all night. Side note, the trains in Tokyo, the largest city in the world, inexplicably stop running shortly after midnight. So, if you're out with friends, around 11 o'clock, people start checking their watches a little more regularly and start debating whether they want to cut the good times short in order to catch their last available train home, or commit to keeping the good times going until around 5 a.m. when the trains start running again. That night, everyone had chosen the latter. Soon enough, the trains were about to start running again, so I said my goodbyes, again, and headed off to catch a Shinkansen to Osaka. So there I was, probably just as sleep deprived as I'd have been if I'd taken the overnight bus, but definitely less sober. On the Shinkansen, I watched the hills and the clay-tiled roofs of the Japanese countryside, and the hanging electrical wires and concrete buildings of Japanese cities slip past in the early morning sunlight. I watched the Japanese salarymen, identifiable by their dark slacks, white button-up shirts, and black briefcases, bleary-eyed on their way to Osaka for some business meeting or other, no doubt condemned to be riding one of the last trains back to Tokyo later that evening. I watched the staff walking through the car, turning to bow to the passengers as they exited through the door at the far end. This was Japan, and I was about to leave again. When I got to Osaka, I was extremely fortunate. Another friend and former student of mine offered to pick me up at Osaka Station and drive me to the ferry terminal. It cut a lot of stress out of the process, and I hadn't seen him in a while, so it was great to catch up. Plus, it was awesome to have a familiar face sending me off as I boarded the ferry. So that's the story of how I left Japan on a 3-month travel adventure a year ago yesterday. I'll be uploading videos with stories from each leg of my journey exactly a year after they happened. Like this video and subscribe to my channel to follow along. See you next time.